We have Askani'son back on the podcast.
Digging out of my grave. Here we are once
Digging
again.
digging out of your grave, Jean Grey style, right? Like from
Yes,
the cover of Phoenix Resurrection.
yes. I'm thinking very uh that scene from End Song. When you got the Phoenix pulling her out, asking her for help, and here she is just slowly just digging up, still rotting away. You know, I'm ready, not really, but I am
Can't you see I'm still dead?
inside. Yes, I am.
Times we live in, I feel like I'm just dead inside. But you know what's one of those like beautiful moments that I have during my days is when I listen to your own podcast.
God, we haven't recorded anything in a little bit though.
Oh,
I
trust
mean,
me, I know. And it's spooky season.
exactly, and it's funny. It's just Booker and I schedule. We have a lot going on. Not to get into a political thing like that because that's one thing that we really avoid. But I am currently in a furloughed state. So, but even prior to all that, we just our schedules are just so hectic, with things and whatnot. And so, anytime that we try to get together to schedule, something comes up for one of us. If it's not something on my end, then it's something on her end. So and now that it's officially October, I'm like, okay, yeah, we gotta do something here. I'm hoping if not tonight, then tomorrow we'll get and kind of get something together to put something out because when we got stuff that we're doing this month, volunteering for Zombie Fest. We've got the Sea Witch Festival happening later on in the month that Delaware has. Really really cool stuff. And I'm going to readopt my new X-Men Cyclops costume and put
Can
that
you
back on.
please send me
Yes.
photos of that?
Oh, I will. My original plan was I was going on Amazon and I actually wanted to do a gender bend um, Jean Grey as Phoenix, but I just kind of ran out of time. So I said, you know what? I still have my Cyclops stuff. I'll just go ahead and pull it out and I'll just put it on and I'll be Scott freaking Summers again.
Well, you do have Scott energy at times. You very much have that leadership, very stoic, classically handsome vibe. So
Oh,
I encourage it.
stop. However, I don't cheat and I don't leave my partner if I ever had one.
Well, yeah, during
Still love
New
him though.
X-Men, you know how I feel about New X-Men and sort of everything that happened there. I think our boy Scott was going through a lot, and
Oh
I
yeah.
give him
Oh
a
yeah.
pass for that. And I think I always try to like epitomize it where Wolverine and Cyclops are together at the bar at the Hellfire Club, and Wolverine looks at Cyclops and says, "After everything you guys have been through, you don't think Jean would understand that you just want a weekend away with a sexy white queen?" Oh, I just thought that was it just framed so much of what a marriage is, how you know the other person, how
Yeah.
mistakes happen. I'm not justifying any actions, but
Right.
sometimes you just need a weekend away from your life. But
Look, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have that kind of separation, moment where, yeah, because let's be honest, like I've been playing the single game for a while now. So I mean, I've been trying to meet people and go on dates and whatnot, and just not really had one that stuck. But no doubt that when you are in a relationship, it's not always the most easiest thing.
no,
And I'm sure there are times where you do get on each other's nerves and you said, okay, you know what? I just need a break. And so you go here, I'll go here, and let's just kind of do our own thing.
when we were renovating our place down in Miami, I was like, our marriage is not going to survive this. Like, not
Yeah.
only is it a financial stress, but then it's also you're physically uncomfortable in your own space. You basically have to like huddle together in a corner. So, marriages are difficult. And with Cyclops, I try to understand that aspect of him. Even with Maddie, when he left Maddie, it was Sinister who had been stalking this guy his entire life, created a clone for him to mate with, and then his
Hmm.
real love of his life comes back from the dead. There's no playbook for something like that. So I think giving Cyclops a little bit of grace here and there, Again, not justifying actions, but grace and understanding that it's a fucked up situation for everyone involved.
Nah, it's just another Tuesday.
Just another Tuesday. Oh, by the way, it's so funny. I was just in Jersey City, the Target in Jersey City, and I'm walking down the aisles and I see the X Factor Jean Grey just right there on clearance. No one has snatched it. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because the Jersey City Target is a high traffic store. And
Hmm.
Taylor Swift has been there. They do a lot of promos and stuff. So the fact that X Factor Jean Grey is there when there are no other Marvel Legends, even Banshee's gone. Like Jean being a peg warmer, it breaks my heart.
I just got her recently at Target. I'm like not even kidding, not even a week ago. Same thing where I'm from. I go to the I know that she was a Target exclusive, so I would go there every so often, and I'd see other X-Men action figures there, but I never found her. I'm thinking, damn man, she really just flies off the shelf here. And then one day I just happened to go there after work, and there she was, just hanging there by herself. And I said, "Whoop, I'm grabbing it, grabbing her." And that was it. Not passing it up. Because it's funny, I actually ordered her online through Target and never got it. So I just
What?
said, yeah, yeah. I finally wrote to him. I said, hey, listen, I mean, I had the receipts and everything. And I said, I never received this, blah, blah, blah. Then, of course, they fixed it for me and whatnot. And then finally, it was just there she was one day. Said, all right, it was just meant to be, I guess, that way. It was just funny.
I have a theory that if they just painted her boots yellow on a second, printing of the figure, that would have sold out. I think her not having the yellow boots destroyed this figure.
And it's like, how is it that? And I'm so glad you said this because I'm a very detailed person, and little stuff like that just annoys the hell out of me. Like, how are you not going to put yellow boots on her, but yet the packaging has her in the yellow boots? Literally, the art in the back, she's sporting the yellow boots. Why does she not have it in the actual figure itself?
When I worked at Marvel like 20 years ago at this point, I there was a department for quality assurance. And I remember because I interviewed with various departments. And I sat down with this guy, and he explicitly told me that his job is to make sure that the product and how the character is supposed to look like align. And to the point that
Hmm.
he
Yeah,
he showed me the Rachel Gray bust from the end of Gray's era, that bust with her in the Phoenix effect. And he just
with the penis tattoo.
yes, yes, exactly. Um, and he showed me how he does edits and stuff like that, and did like fire effects around her as sort of like a to illustrate his point. And I'm like, what happened to this guy? Like, this guy must not have been good at his job because, like, how do you not know she has yellow boots? Again, how does no one? And it's kind of like a misfire. Well, I mean, it's happened before with Hasbro, but like Dwight and Dan seem to be very knowledgeable of these characters and they care. I think there and Ryan as well got, he's no longer
Yeah.
on the team, but I think there is someone on the Marvel end though that I would be like, they look like they don't care as much. I'm not gonna be salty though.
Well, yeah, same. I mean, it's and not to be very overcritical, about it, but I mean, it's not like it's a very um, kind of overly designed costume here, so it's just pretty basic. I mean, X Factor debuted back in the '80s, so I mean, it was very minimal with the design. So it's just, but that's like when I see people draw or incorporate the black background of the Dark Phoenix costume. That chaps my ass so
Oh,
much.
I
I
know
hate when
you hate that. That was
I
one of the
hate it
things that
so
we
much.
talked about like 5 years ago, and that's how I got to know
Yeah,
you. Um,
yeah,
yeah, it's just like again, it's what really upsets me is because of a misfire with this figure, which was a nail in the coffin. My worry is that we're not going to get the red and yellow X Factor gene, which would be a simple repaint of this. Because these are
right.
peg warmers. I mean, again, the Jersey City store, a flagship store, high volume traffic. I'm reiterating this because there's probably like five genes there, and they're just peg warmers. And
Hmm.
it breaks my heart because if it's a peg warmer here, it's a peg warmer. By the way, and I've seen it in Miami, and I was in Pittsburgh too. And her and Banshee were just there, just taking up
Yeah.
space. So,
Yeah. but this is not like it's not. This isn't the first time where we've had a an X Factor Jean figure before in the green and yellow. I mean, years ago, back in the thing was like back in the '90s. I mean, Marvel came up with the She Force line, and you had her in that costume, yellow boots and all. So the only difference was you didn't have that different head option. She just had her hair out of the cowl and just a mask. But I mean, that was. But I remember back then, that was the coolest thing. I was like, oh my God, we got this version here. Okay, okay, progress.
It was a repaint of the Spider Woman that was released in the
Yeah.
Iron Man wave, which eventually they did sue Storm with that as well. And I just thought that was such
Hmm.
a wonderful mold for Jean in that costume. And again, I wish we had
Yeah.
gotten the red costume for that, but the green one was really cool too. And I look back, I know a lot of people at the time hated that Toy Biz used to repaint figures. I remain agnostic on it. I'm okay
Yeah.
with it. Like
It's
I get it. They got to make money. There's a budget, so I'm not as upset about
hmm
it. I can get testy about it with Marvel Legends, though.
right, right. No, I'm right there with you with that. I mean, it wasn't like a deal breaker for me either. I mean, you had other figures. I think you had the Dazzler figure that was a black cat that was, a Jean figure, part of the Marvel couples line when her and Scott were in the blue and yellow X Factor costume. I mean, it was what it was, and I was just happy that they even had those types of figures, what repainted or not. So, I mean, hey, look, it saved them money, so that I guess that was the thing.
I,
I'm just
the
waiting for an authentic Maddie figure.
Okay, well, let me tell you something. I was just talking about this with friend of the podcast, Alexander, last night. We were having dinner in Soho, and we were talking about a Madeline Pryor figure. And I'm going to say something to you, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't like the X-Men
Lay it on me.
97. I don't like the X-Men 97 Madeline figure. I'm sorry. I don't think it's a good
I
figure.
I get it. I think I get it. I think I know. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it as much either. She's just too pale, and it was just I don't know. I, look, look, I'm not trying to sound ungrateful. I mean, I'm happy that we got one. I mean, it's better than nothing. But yeah, I can understand. I think that could have also just been kind of a bit of a repaint from the Gene 97. Just change up the hair a little bit. But yeah, I see it. I get it.
I've never understood Hasbro's point where this is probably one of the only ways we could get Maddie was through the Engine of Vengeance or, a more conservative costume because I'm walking through the toy aisles at Target and certainly
Hmm.
there are characters with far more scandalous
Oh yeah.
costumes out there. And
Oh
again,
yeah.
also, why can't you just do a fan channel exclusive? Why can't you just put it on Hasbro Pulse? I don't get it. You're putting Cyclops and Jean on Hasbro Pulse. However, you can't put Madeline there. Like Maddie makes more sense as a Hasbro Pulse exclusive than a two-pack of Scott and Jean that would sell at retail, in my opinion.
I think if they're more worried about just because of how her costume looked as the Goblin Queen from the Inferno storyline, I think there's a ways around. You don't have to sit there and have her be wearing a crop top. You know, you can have it designed where the slit can come down like right toward like right as like without having like the breast exposed, but you don't have to sit there and do it as you know what I'm saying? Like it can come down from the brooch and just kind of come this way where, the boobs are still covered. You're not having any, look, I'm going to be honest. I love the under boob look though. I mean, that was just peak like
I do
80s right there.
too.
I mean, that, hey, you got a question. I mean, double stick tape, man. That was in a thing right there. Her and Emma's new X-Men costume. I mean, they were working that shit. I
I
mean,
I think they were sexy, fun costumes. I say this as a gay man and think of they just look so fabulous and deliciously evil. Again, I grew up though, as I'm sure you did too,
oh yeah.
as part of the Elvira generation. And there's something so
Oh, for sure.
performative, campy, iconic about these like scandalous costumes. So it doesn't bother me as much as other people, but there's always, again, I'm always happy to have a conversation about it, but I think Maddie and an underboob, like, oh God, that costume is just, it's iconic. It's,
Oh, it is. And look,
you
I
know,
mean, it's just it's a costume you'll never forget. I mean, it
yeah.
was hers. It just it really it was a standout look. I mean,
Oh,
I
and
absolutely loved it as well.
here's another hot take. I actually think her costume isn't that scandalous. It's a Goblin Prince. His costume
Oh,
feels
for
more
sure.
scandalous than hers. Like,
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think, as fans, of these stories, that have grown up with them like you and I mean, I remember getting the Inferno trade and just because, I mean, Gene was the animated series, Gene was my gateway into the X-Men comics itself. I started watching the show first and then got into the comics. And, despite how people's interpretation of her character in the original series, I still thought she was absolutely great. I mean, for me, she was probably my favorite. She was my favorite character. Obviously, she's my favorite superhero, and because I just thought she has such a cool power. But then segueing into her history, and then learning about Madeline, and then the Inferno, and seeing Havoc dressed as the Goblin Prince, and I think we always kind of go to that one photo. It's in the X Factor issue where he just kind of has hands on his hips and he's got that leg kind of, kind of swayed in that way, kind of assassins Scott there. And I'm
was
like, okay,
Mark
Alex.
Silvestri the artist for it? Or I'm trying to
No,
remember. No.
it was whoever I think who was doing the no, oh, Walt Simonson.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Walt Simonson, like the art was arting in that
Yeah,
moment
oh it
with
was.
them. Yeah, it's I don't know. I really love that era of comics and storytelling and that discoverability. Although I want to pull on a thread because I also do want to talk about the Gene Solo series, so we're gonna get into it. But
Yeah.
can I tell you something that really like is my biggest pet peeve? And I try to be as like kind of like low maintenance and chill when I hear other people's like opinions on things, but there's always one thing that it's like Kill Bill sirens and boils my blood is when
Hmm.
people make fun of Jean in the animated series and talk about her fainting and they do memes of her
Oh
fainting.
God, yeah.
It boils my blood. And and it's not no one's coming at it from a place of well, mostly no one is coming at it from a place of
Right.
malice. But I just for whatever reason, it's one of those things that I feel very passionate about that Jean fainting in the animated series, like if you really want to get into it, the representation of a powerful woman always fainting, like that's not cool. So don't make fun of it. You know what I mean? Like we need to move past it. And also
Here,
she's using the powers of her mind. You know, like
Well, that's just it. And I think now as an adult looking back, I mean, you have to understand, I'm sure that was a very taxing thing to do when you're literally using your mind to do all these, fantastic
yeah.
things. Here's the thing though, and I'm right there with you because it does piss me off too when I still hear people talking about that all this time. Despite, those, shortcomings and whatnot, she still did the damn thing when she was involved. Like, I mean, she helped Rogue with the Ms. Marvel persona. I mean, when they were in Mojo world. I mean, she saved the captive X-Men by taking the controls from Spiral. She saved Gambit's people from the external. I mean, she was able to locate Apocalypse in his underground lair. I mean, she still did the thing. I mean, so I don't like that people focus solely on that part of her when she did so much more. It's like you got to give her props. You got to give her credit where credit's due. So I mean, can we just like you said, can we just get away from that? And that's why I'm so glad that X-Men 97 did her such justice to her character, as that is how she should have been portrayed
Oh,
always. She's just, I mean, she's always been strong. She's always been a very powerful character, and it's just, I get it's the times, but I don't know. I hate that interpretation of her is kind of what set people's idea of her character always, and it's not the case.
yeah. And again, like, I don't know why she was portrayed like that. I think it's more that the Lee Waltz were writers first and they were sort of building out the team from a different perspective and they wanted Jean to be the girl next door kind of deal. But in the comic books,
Yeah.
she was quite the opposite, especially towards the end of that X Factor run, early 90s. I am so appreciative of her in 97. I love Jennifer Hale quite a bit. I think Jennifer Hale does an amazing job,
Oh
but
yeah.
I also think the direction that Bo took, which was to show her like a brute at times, like in when she's fighting the Prime Sentinels, and she just like she's powered up like that. She's like pounding on them. It was so good. Again, I
Oh
think
yeah.
Jean, and I think also to your point of what you were saying, I think Jean is one of the best superheroes out there. And I'm saying this objectively, not like a crazy Jean Grey
Mhm.
fan. I'm saying this objectively. She has this incredible epic odyssey of
Oh
death
yeah.
and rebirth, of being a teenager and becoming a goddess, to destroying the universe, to ascending into a higher plane of existence, to coming back. That I want everyone to know the story of Jean Grey. I want them to learn the lessons. I want them to celebrate the character. So when you epitomize this grand epic character to just fainting and making sexual noises, it upsets me so much. You know what I mean? And especially
No,
since
I no, absolutely.
I credit Gene and Madeline and the Phoenix for helping me build out my literary skills and being able to interpret high sci-fi concepts. And again, this is something that is a little bit more, commonplace now, but in the 80s and 90s, we just didn't get stories like this, you know?
Mhm. Oh yeah. No,
My TED Talk.
it's no, but I love it because this is just she just brings out such passion in amongst the fans. I think even some maybe a little too much there. I mean, we know how fandom can be now, um,
Oh my God, we
but
haven't even spoken about that. Fandom in particular, for all, I'm saying this for all modes of fandom, not just the fandom we find
absolutely.
ourselves in. It is impossible to say anything anymore without people losing their minds.
I think, and when we talk about the series, I'm going to kind of get into more about it because I have my thoughts about uh, character portrayals, how between now and then, of course, back then. So, I mean, I'll kind of save it for that. But no, yeah, fandom anymore. I mean, I get look, we're all very passionate. We all have that one character that we gravitate towards, that we're very biased, towards. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, we can sit there and like so many characters, but I know there's always that one that we really do gravitate the most to. And yeah, it could just be such a very just very fiery environment at times.
I say this with so much respect for the X-Men community, but I am truly baffled that we live in a world where Storm and Jean fans are fighting on Twitter. Thankfully, that's never truly reached Power of X-Men. I'm not saying there has been a comment or something around there, but in terms of
Mhm.
like reaching me in DMs and stuff like that, it's never been a thing. And the Rogue Magneto Gambit situation. Oh my goodness, that's like I don't even want to touch it. Like
I,
it is in like to the point that they're bullying Russell Dodderman, that he has
oh
to
my God,
take
I know.
down a cover that's just a homage cover. That's all it
And
is.
that was the thing, and that just I really just scratched my head about that. I'm like, are we really just going to be that type of person that you're going to sit there and bully an artist that, like you just said, was simply just doing a homage to an older X-Men cover? I mean, that's it. And here's the thing: this is what people need to understand. Okay, and it's them in their age of apocalypse, looks. Which, and for those that may not be familiar with that story, Rogue and Magneto were a thing. They had a child together. So that's why he had them paired. It was nothing to slight Gambit or anything. I mean, I know in that storyline they kind of Rogue and Gambit had that bit of a flirtatious thing, but I mean, it was her and Magneto that were the power couple of that storyline. So it just really it just boggles my mind that people just took it so far. And like, and that, come on, and let's be real here. At the end of the day, these are just fictional characters. Okay, they really don't have any type of impact, on our lives. I mean, they're just stories that we just like to see them involved in and told. Come on, let's
I
calm it down.
agree. I agree with you. And that's the thing that always gets me. I never want to be that person who does say, come on, these are fictional characters, because these characters do mean so much to
They
us,
do, yeah, of course.
but they are fictional characters. And when you
Yeah.
start talking about real world consequences for fictional characters, it's like it's apples and oranges. And, I think Bo actually just tweeted about this. He sent me the tweet where he was talking about what he was planning with Rogue and Gambit. And sometimes you have to have a story, right? One character has to
Hmm.
die, the other character has to go find another love interest. So that way that you can build towards them coming together. And there's nothing wrong with that. And especially in the
No.
context of Age of Apocalypse, where the world is upside down. This is not the proper timeline. This is an other world, and the world needs to be set correctly. And in this world, Magneto and Rogue are married, and that is something that is not in the main universe. And that's why they have to reset the timeline. And not just for that, but you know what I mean. Like, so
Right, right.
it's always so baffling to me when people take it to a point that, again, he's homaging, Russell Dauterman is homaging that cover from, is it X-Men 24, X-Men 42? I'm forgetting the issue number.
I'm not sure.
I'm horrible with
Honestly.
issue numbers, but the Jim Lee
Same.
cover of them, of Rogue and Gambit embracing, because it's kind of like a cheeky nod, when he's doing this Age of Apocalypse cover. So I felt so bad. I was going to send Russell Dauterman a note and be like, hey, that really, but I just don't want to get involved with it. I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to get involved in it. I think it just takes away from the joys of our fandom, which is, I think in the case of Age of Apocalypse, it's not so much about the romantic interests, but more about like the sci-fi elements. Oh, and by the way, the story is all about Gambit. It culminates with Gambit having to sacrifice his love for Rogue
Hmm.
to in order to save the universe.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful story.
it is. Yeah,
It's like,
it's beautifully tragic.
yes, exactly. And that's why I
Hmm.
don't understand why anyone could just be like, ugh, this is problematic, Rogue and Magneto. And it's like, it is problematic. And that's the point of the Age of Apocalypse. The entire world is problematic, and we need to reset the timeline. And it's so,
Right.
Gambit's still in love with her, and he has to sacrifice his love to save the universe and reset things. Like, that, you're not even talking about the context of the story. Sorry.
No, that's no. You're absolutely right. It's just an unfortunate situation where I mean that just shouldn't be happening, and that's why I say, hey, you know what? Just limit your comments, cut them off, repost that work, shut the comments off, and yeah, I mean he's a great artist, and his work deserves to be shown, and it's a shame that anyone has to feel like they have to edit themselves just to appease certain bases or whatnot. It's ridiculous. We're adults. I mean, I get nostalgia the type of thing, but nostalgia also is acknowledging those particular storylines where these were the characters living in that time in that story, and that's what it is. So it's I don't get it.
Okay, well, can we get into the Phoenix
Yes,
solo? The Phoenix
let's do
solo.
it.
You tell me. Okay, I know my thought feels. I want to know your feels. We've talked about it over the course of the year, but I want encapsulate it for me now that the series is over.
Well, so look, you know me. Like I said earlier, I mean, Jean Grey is my favorite superhero, period, and I'll support anything that she's in. And when Krakoa ended and they were bringing out from the ashes, and they announced that Phoenix was going to have her solo series, I was very excited about it, and really really looking forward to it. And I think that when it debuted, I felt like it started off pretty strong. I mean series in general, solo, team series, whatever. I mean, you're gonna have your high points, you're gonna have your low points. Obviously, not everything's gonna always translate very well. I mean, there's gonna be hits and misses, with certain things. And my opinion is, I felt that the Adani storyline kind of went on a little too long. I mean, it. And then her battling Thanos, and I felt like that was kind of like a quick thing. And then next thing you know, she's evolving into this cosmic goddess, and then you got the whole Sarah issue coming up and whatnot. I get it, and I don't think they were all bad, but I just think some things just really kind of got a little too convoluted for its own good. And like I said, I'll get into power aspects here in a bit. Um, but overall, I mean, I didn't hate the series. Obviously, I didn't hate the series. I mean, like I said, I'll support Gene in anything, but I just think there are just points of it where things work better than others. And I don't know if maybe it was just certain editorials were kind of putting themselves in, certain things and not really giving the writer room. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a writer. I don't know how that really works. But overall, I mean, if I had to rank it between like a 1 out of 10, I'd give it a good like 7.
Interesting. I I didn't like it at all.
And
I
that's fine. Yeah.
I wanted to I wanted, like you said, I wanted to support Jean, and I have always wanted a Phoenix solo series of her as Phoenix sailing the cosmos. That was like my dream
Yes.
come true. Ever since New X-Men, Here Comes Tomorrow, when she says, "Ha, live Scott, live," I want to see her put the universe down and start doing cosmic things. So I I was
Hmm.
already a happy customer. I was already coming in just ready to give all my money. But I found the series kind of stale and boring. And, with Adani, I really do think if you're going to establish a really good solo series, and I'm forgetting who said this, so I want to give credit to the person because I thought it was brilliant what they said, but you need to create your own rogues gallery for a hero if you're going to have them have a
Hmm.
solo series. And I just thought with Adani, you could have done, first of all, I'm kind of confused why she was so angry, A, but B, why wouldn't you do like Revenge of a Broccoli person? Like one of the Dabari survived and she grew up all these years embittered by Jean and has to confront Jean. And I didn't like it. I thought some of like the momentum building with her cosmic goddess look just kept falling short, and then it just randomly showed up one day instead of some of those key moments. And I'm
Yeah.
confused about Sarah. Someone else can explain Sarah to me because as of that last page, I'm like, so is it really Sarah? Like I'm
Well,
confused.
and that's the thing. I mean, that's what you kind of question, and I question that as well. Is this genuinely her, or is this just a cosmic construct that, as Jean revealed, that she created? I mean, because with Sarah's essence and soul kind of reconstituted, in here to bring about the character, we don't know. We don't really have that, answer. So. But no, I mean, I am 100% with you because I think, yeah, as a solo series, every main here has that one particular arch nemesis that is kind of like that is their foil. I mean, like going to Star Wars, you had Darth Vader to Obi-Wan Kenobi, Buffy had Faith, Xena had Callisto. It was just you have these rogues galleries specifically for these characters, and so that was one thing I agree was missing was Adani supposed to be that for Jean, and then it just kind of fizzled out, once that arc of the story came to a close. And I agree with the whole Adani is, yeah, why is she angry at Jean when she's the one that literally just saved their entire planet from this exploding sun, and Pericus is the one that murdered her father right literally there in front of her. And I don't know if this is just kind of a take on today's politics now that you have these certain people and that will just kind of throw out this kind of misinformation, and then people just kind of go along with it and blame the other person that even though they had nothing to do with it, when they're trying to do the right thing. And so it was just, but yeah, it just certain parts of it did come across a little stale, just kind of stagnant a little bit. I was like, okay, it's my wish for Gene Solo, and I hope that after this binary series happens, because I know that the series is going to continue on. I mean, Stephanie even said herself, it's just going to have a new team. I do want to see a bit of like a space opera type adventure for her. Like maybe kind of get her away from the X-Men. She doesn't have to be tethered to them. Let her become that kind of cosmic solo hero and have her interact with other cosmic characters. I know
Agreed.
we kind of had it a little bit with her interacting with Nova and Rocket, but really maybe kind of get a new iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy, have, other, maybe with this new Silver Surfer character coming into play here, have her interact with other Marvel characters that she hasn't really gotten the chance to do so. You know, maybe go an adventure with the Eternals. I know the Inhumans are making the comeback, and maybe have, her interact with them, or something. Just have a Star Wars, Star Trek type of adventure out there, doing Phoenix work. So that's what I would love to see.
I agree. And one of the things that like I thought what read lazy to me was that she went up against Thanos and the Black Order because it just felt like low-hanging fruit from the MCU and like why
Yeah.
I don't know like I felt the same way in Ultimate Alliance 3 when it was Thanos and the Black Order. I just think their time has gone. We don't need to have to deal with them anymore. If you want to do like a one shot of it, I think that's great because you want to, for the casual reader, show that Jean is so powerful she can wipe the floor with Thanos. But I think you do need to make it interesting. And I would have liked to have seen them draw upon the Phoenix lore a bit more. The White Hot Room, the Phoenix Core, like these are elements. Like Marvel, I don't think understands that they're sitting on a gold mine with the idea of like a Phoenix Core all around the universe, kind of like Green Lantern over at
Right.
DC. I don't know why they're not leaning into that. And and that way everyone can get the Phoenix like they already do. And we don't have to argue about all this stuff. It just feels that like sometimes Marvel misses the point on things and special characters. And I think Morrison at the end of New X-Men had set up Jean and its Phoenix Core and the White Hot Room in such an interesting way. And then 2 decades later, Marvel comes and like shits the bed on it.
Well, I think that's the thing too. I mean, and I was just thinking that as well. It works for, the Green Lantern characters. I mean, you've got, who I'm not really very apt when it comes to DC. I think it was the original Green Lantern. Was it Hal Jordan? I think. Um, I could be wrong. Sorry. I'm sure someone listening to this is probably going to start yelling at me. No, no. It's just,
I
but
tell this to Flink all the time. Like Flink will say things on the podcast, and I'm like, the DMs come to me. Like there's no one who thinks to message the person directly. So don't worry.
no.
I'm your shield. Literally. I'm Dr. Rao with Emma, right? When Emma grabs Dr. Rao in like Astonishing X-Men. So see me as your body shield. Say whatever you
Look,
want or
well,
not.
you can find me on Instagram at mdbrower81, so you can DM me there. So I'll take the hit. But yeah, I mean, you have, with the Green Lantern Corps, I mean, it works for them. So yeah, and that was one thing I've always kind of wondered if they were ever going to kind of fall back on, was that whole bit with the Phoenix Corps at the very end of Grant Morrison's run in Here Comes Tomorrow, where she becomes the White Phoenix and she's extracting that timeline to save the school and push Scott to be with Emma so that the X-Men can go on.
Can I tell you, that's
And
another thing that I'm sorry to cut you off because I feel so strongly about the fact that that has never been addressed. That Scott, and by the way, when people are fighting about Jean and Emma or Scott and Emma or Scott and Jean, no one ever brings up the point that Jean telepathically pushed Scott to be
yeah.
with Emma. Sorry.
Oh, I always say it. Oh, I
I
always bring it
know,
up.
same. But like no one cares, like not even editorial. And it's like, guys, like, can you just explore this aspect of it? Sorry.
Look, when no, I'm right there with you, because when I see on X, Twitter, whatever, or even on Insta, and how you still have those kind of battles about who was better with who. Are you? I mean, I know you like the Scott and Emma relationship, and I know that you have people that like the Scott and Jean. Me personally, I just think Jean honestly should just be by herself. Just, whatever. Don't be tethered by anybody. But whatever. That's neither here or there. But I always make sure to mention the reason why that Scott and Emma were ever even a thing was because Jean made it so.
Yeah,
With much respect to me, they were a product of her, and she
rightfully
mentally
so.
pushed it
Yes.
because, well, one, because she needed him to move on. She needed him to move on because obviously he was grieving her death, and that's why he walked away, and that's why Here Comes Tomorrow even happened. Beast taking that drug kick, and then he became crazy and all that. So she had to eliminate that timeline, push Scott to be with Emma because she knew Emma was in love with him. So that was so for to Gene, that was his, best way to move on, restart the school, and prevent that dystopian future from coming to pass.
And I would love for Emma, and this was a big thing that people were asking about during AVX. Now that Emma has the Phoenix and access to it, I mean, she got it in Endsong, but now that Scott and Emma both have the Phoenix, would they have insight into the work that Jean had done? And we
Yeah.
were all hoping, like, there were so many loose ends with Jean during that era, especially with the locket that Scott gave Hope. And it was a locket of Jean and Cyclops as teens. What happened to the locket? Are they going to find out? All unfulfilled storylines that I wish for a Phoenix solo, someone would be aware of it and try to wrap up those storylines or lean into them. And again, like I know Phoenix Endsong I have seen, it's kind of like I don't want to say it's polarizing amongst readers, but not everyone loves it as much as I did. And I think, though, objectively, Greg Pak, not Pak, really did a great job of streamlining the Phoenix mythos. And that's what I would expect out of a Phoenix solo, not make it more complicated with Sarah Gray, which no one asked for this bitch to come back. Sorry.
Well, the thing is, even Greg Pak in Phoenix Endsong even touched upon the Here Comes Tomorrow storyline at the very
Yeah,
last issue of Endsong,
the
where
little bug
you
people.
know, yeah, exactly. I mean, Jean even says that right before Emma brings everyone together to kind of calm her down, and she becomes the White Phoenix again. But she mentions, yeah, the bug people, how they're a genetic obsolescence and all that, and she even says, something along the lines of like, here comes tomorrow, or whatever.
Yeah, I can see myself
Um,
doing it again. Here I come tomorrow.
yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. And so obviously she still remembers those events, and it's surprisingly that still doesn't get touched upon even today, like you said, especially with AVX. Yeah, it's with Scott and Emma, because obviously she's the one that pushed them to be together. Where was, even if it was just maybe a little bit of a hint or something, or some kind of clarity or epiphany that maybe Emma would have had. She got a glimpse of Jean doing this, and then and you see Scott and her kissing, and then restarting the school, and then she's like, "Oh, was this why that Scott, came to me? Because just something, that I mean, it's just like a little appetizer, to kind of what our senses, and
Well,
just
because to that point, I was thinking about this. Why does it bother me that some continuity doesn't get acknowledged? And, there was an interview years ago, I mean, decades ago, where someone was like, oh, they think you don't know anything just because you don't mention the entire history of a character in one panel. And I think that's a fair comment. But at a certain point, though, when you don't acknowledge these stories of things that once happened, then you start to begin to feel that this universe doesn't matter and that there is no consequences for these stories. And that really does upset me because you know, I think the beauty of the shared universe is that there's a cause and effect and you have that history. And again, like you could argue that Jean is forgiving of Emma and Scott together because she was the one who put them together. You
right.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it doesn't need to be a thing, but at the same time, you've not acknowledged it for like decades at this point. And it makes
Right.
you think like, wow, like nothing means anything. I'm sorry. This is where I get angry on things. And it's
No,
happening too
I
with
get it.
Age of Revelation. I'm like, have you read it? Did you read the
I've
issue
seen the preview
yesterday?
pages.
Okay, well,
I haven't read the actual, like the start of it, but I've seen the preview pages of Binary, and I know that one little panel where it says Jean Grey is dead, it has people all up in the tizzy, and I'm like, but it may not be what you think it is, obviously. So,
obviously. But wait, I was going to
but
say actually this in reference to Scott, where Scott is having this moment with Doug, and he's here like, I can't believe Doug Ramsey is this evil. And it's like, you should know that because you understand he's under the influence of Apocalypse. So
exactly,
it
yes.
is not it. You or yourself were under that influence, and it was a big story point for you. And
Oh
again,
yeah,
You don't need to refer to the story, but Cyclops would understand that cute, innocent Doug Ramsey is corrupted by Apocalypse. Sorry.
Well, that's where I think communication clearly does lack. And I'm not trying to criticize editors or writers because I'm not in their position, but I mean, it's kind of funny to me that we as fans know this stuff. What seems like we know it a little bit more, and I feel like maybe possibly we could probably write these stories a little bit more better. I don't
I'm
know.
down. Let's go pitch Jean, a Jean solo. We'll take over for Stephanie.
But I think what it is, it's just that I get that when you have a writer coming into a story, especially with how Phoenix is going to transition into a new team, it's you're both excited, but then you're kind of worried at the same time because you want them to, well, you want them to, but they should respect what's already been done before. I get that they want to kind of put in their own story and whatnot, but you can't ignore already established continuity, and that's what kind of gets me and bothers me a little bit with how certain things get ignored or they don't touch upon. I mean, for the longest time, we've talked about this, and I know you've talked about this. The whole idea with Hope Summers was originally she was supposed to be Jean Grey reborn. And then right at the last minute, they decided to change that because even in those issues, like with the locket, and the baby Hope opens it up and you see a photo of Scott and Jean. And there's a page in the trade paperback where it says that Scott knows who this is, and that's why he gives her to Cable. And then you see Cable raise her because it's a reflection of how Scott and Jean raised him in the Adventures of
Yes.
Cyclops and Phoenix.
Yeah.
So it was
I
so
love
and
you so much. I've missed you so much. Sometimes I forget how in sync we are with like our love for Gene because no one cares about this stuff anymore. Everyone is just like arguing about, Rogue and Gambit. And no
look,
one talks about the lore and all this stuff.
yeah,
Sorry, go.
no, I'm just saying. I mean, it would have been such a great way to really close out that story with the revelation that Hope was Jean the entire time. I get that why they changed it because all new X-Men, they were going to bring back the original. I know that's probably why they kept Hope, her own character. But I will give them this. It was nice to see that connection with Hope and Jean in
Agreed.
X-Men Forever, where you do see Jean meet with Louise and she imbues her with the essence of the Phoenix. And I'm not a religious person, so I don't want to get into all like the religious hierarchy and all that. But it does this kind of like Jean as God and Hope is the child and all whatnot.
The
And then
Phoenix is the
that's how
Holy
you
Spirit. Yeah.
exactly and it's just there.
Although Rachel's
You
like,
have
fuck
that.
my drag.
I know, right? you know,
She's a
but
real daughter of she's a real daughter in that Trinity, but there could be multiple
yeah, yes,
daughters.
yeah. I mean, look, Rachel's great. I mean, I love Rachel. I mean, we can't sit there and kind of a bit of a side, bit here is I want to see a writer actually bring Jean and Rachel together and have them really have that relationship because you don't see it. You never
Never,
see it. I mean, even during the
never.
Krakoa era where they were living together on you just never and I hate that people try to make Jean to be like a bad mother. No, it's because you just don't have writers actually wanting to write them having that relationship, with each other. It's just like, come
But
on. You have
why? Why
Jean,
don't they want that though? This is
right.
what
And
like
that's
it upsets me.
exactly.
These interpersonal connections. The writers just gloss over them. By the way, we don't even have a proper reunion between Madeline and Cable in the comics. And Madeline's
Yeah,
been back for like how long at this point? And like Rachel
right.
and Jean, that we've never had a mother-daughter story with them. Like legitimately flushed out. We had Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix at the end. We had a brief moment with Teen Jean and maybe Battle of the Atom when she adult teen Jean gives her a kiss, but like we've never had adult back from the dead Jean and Rachel just having a proper arc together.
Right. I
We
know.
don't. It's not there, and I know it's been here and there with like X-Men Red, but like
Yeah.
it's not significant enough. Sorry.
Well, that's just it. It's just it. No, I'm right there. No, I completely 100% agree. But it's just not something that's ever been really fleshed out because you always have, it's always Gene and Cable, or Gene with Teen Cable, or whatever X-Man back then. But there was just never that opportunity for, and you had it right there because one thing about going back, speaking of these two, was the first meeting between Jean and Rachel, and how get to give Jean's credit for. I think she had the most realist reaction meeting this young woman that's claiming to be her daughter, and it's like I would feel the same way. Like, who the hell are you? And you're trying to tell me that you're my child? You're crazy. I mean,
But also, like,
I,
Ascani, she was dead. She was in
yeah,
suspended
exactly.
animation. A
Yeah,
cosmic parasite took her place.
her
Everyone thought
other
she was,
self was
yeah,
running
her other
around.
self. You're right. You're right. At the time, the
Right,
Phoenix was
right.
something else. Like, of course she's
Yes,
gonna freak out. She's like, "What
of course.
bizarro world did I wake up in?" Like that is a logical
Exactly.
reaction to have.
She had her Cordelia moment. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's
But
okay, though. It is okay. Here's another thing, though, and I'll give you the leeway to speak on that. But one of the things that I didn't like, what I don't like about modern sort of criticism, is that people think like, oh, these characters have to be perfect 24/7. No, we need dramatic beats, and Gene being
yeah.
upset is a dramatic beat. I'm sorry, continue. Sorry, cut you
So
off.
here's what. Oh no, you're fine. No, you're totally fine. No, I love when you go onto your tangents as well. It's absolutely great. And I go right. This is why you and I were really in sync with this stuff. But here's what people have to understand. This is what people have to understand.
Yes, tell me.
You, Jean just met Rachel, but we as the readers already knew her. We already knew who she was. Jean did not. You have to take yourself out of, you got to put yourself into their shoes. Rachel's already been established in the stories, so we already knew that she came from another timeline. We already knew that she was the daughter of Jean and Scott from the Days of Future Past. But when Jean came back, she knew nothing of this. I mean, look, she didn't even realize that Cyclops was married, and she didn't even find out from him. She had to find out from her other teammates. I mean, so much. She was so kept in the dark about a lot of things. And like I said, here she's meeting this young woman that's, as she said, nearly the same age as her, claiming to be her child from wherever. She's not gonna just embrace her and be like, oh, daughter, it's so great. And one, remember, she didn't have her telepathy at the time, so it's not like she can read her mind and
Agreed.
see for herself. So there's so many things at play that us as the reader have to remember. We already knew who Rachel was, but some characters don't, and they're just finding out in certain ways. And you have to understand, Gene, I'm sure, was kind of going through a little bit of PTS, D here with seeing the Phoenix, um,
Agreed.
emanating from
I
someone
saw the
else.
Phoenix effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are you? It is a
Right.
logical thing to, but, okay, wait. This is what you and I are talking about is what I expect the writer's room and editorial room for a Phoenix series to kind of go into. So again, it is odd to me that they focus on the story of Adani and Thanos and Sarah Gray when there was so much more on the back end that should have been addressed with Jean
Yeah.
and what would make a good Jean story. And I don't know, is it this perspective that weighing a story down with continuity really turns off a reader? I'm not seeing the opposite effect. I didn't think this Jean series sold particularly well. Probably better than most because it's a Jean story, but why not focus on telling a really good story? I hate Marvel's allergic reaction to its own continuity, thinking that it turns off readers when it doesn't. What turns off readers is bad storytelling.
I think what would have been interesting too was to have it touch upon the whole and the Gray storyline, especially when she was mentally confronting Gladiator as they were watching, her and her battle against Gore the God Butcher, and she says to him, "I can hear you what you're saying." It would have been interesting to see a story where she has to, I guess, maybe come together with him or in the Shi'ar to band together to fight whatever cosmic threat there is, and then have some kind of closure about that whole storyline, with the death of her family that was sent out because they were afraid that the Gray Line could carry the Phoenix Force because of just who she is and who they are and why and their ties to her. But you never got that, and
They
then you enter.
never, ever tackled it. And again, you have Gladiator there, talking about Gene, and you think Gene would have been like, you killed my family when I was away. And again, like, I
Right.
know Teen Jean had her throwaway line here and there about what happened with the Greys, but adult Jean, with the exception of Phoenix Resurrection, has have they ever tackled that again? I don't think they have. Even in the Louise Simonson series, I wish they would have tackled the end of Gray's storyline. No one cares anymore. Sorry.
Well, that well that's
I
well
keep
that's just it.
apologizing. I'm just
No,
screaming
you're
now.
fine. No, God, don't apologize. Stop. No, but I understand because when it came to Teen Gene and that whole crossover with all new X-Men and Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, yeah, it was nice to see, but it just doesn't have that impact because that stuff hasn't happened to her yet. This is a teenage version of Jean who's getting blamed for the actions of her older self, and so the impact just isn't there. But now that adult Jean is back, I mean, that's where they can go ahead and really delve into that particular story and have some kind of closure, if you will. Here's the thing, and to kind of go back to that confrontation with Jean and Cyclops when he wanted to eliminate the Brood because of what happened with his father. And I know a lot of people gave Jean crap about that, but you have to understand too, Jean's coming from a place where she doesn't want the X-Men to be known as a genocidal group of people that, oh, if one particular species pisses us off, we want to eliminate them because she remembers what happened as when she was a Dark Phoenix. She takes that responsibility because it was her. She did
Yeah.
do that. She eliminated these people, these 5.5 billion lives. Although the real villains behind Dark Phoenix never ever get mentioned, the Hellfire Club. But it's just, but
Jason,
she takes,
again.
yes, I mean, she takes that responsibility though, and that's why she had that confrontation with him because she doesn't want them to be marred in that negative way. Um,
And by the way, what you just said, though, is more of the reason why I love Jean because Jean is a selfless person and she's not passing on the blame of what happened with Dark Phoenix to anyone but herself. Again,
right?
people forget this. Jason stalked her. He was a
Yes,
pervert who stalked her,
he
who
mentally raped her.
yes, and then corrupted her. And then Gene is like the one who holds that responsibility for what happened with the Dabari system. And
Hmm.
it is really, oh, it boils my blood too. That may now be the other thing that boils my blood with like Gene's stories. But again, it goes to that Gene is accepting responsibility for her actions in a way that no one else does.
And for essentially for other people as well. I mean, she takes the
Yeah.
blame for herself.
Yeah.
And it's just, but again, why I think Jean is such a great character and why I just love her so much is just because of her empathy as well. Because she ended up forgiving him in uh, in the '90s issue where he was succumbing to the legacy virus.
Yeah.
She did. I mean, she did forgive him, for that when he apologized to her for what he did. And that's I think is what makes her one of the strongest characters is because yes, she's very fiery and look, and she's admitted that she has a bad temper. And is she perfect? Absolutely not. She's made her fair share of mistakes. I mean, I think one thing about being a fan of a character is you know their faults as well, and you know they're not perfect. But one thing I love about her though is that she is human at the end of the day, and she does feel and and forgiveness obviously like, and I give her credit because and I give people that credit for forgiving people that have murdered, family members and whatnot. I don't know if I could do that, but it's just that's why I just think she's such a wonderful character because I can't imagine anybody else, doing that. But yeah, she does. She takes sole responsibility for those actions, and that's why she doesn't want to see anyone else kind of fall into that those types of footsteps. If that makes sense. Um,
No, it makes complete sense. Like Jean is a teacher at the end of the day.
yeah,
She's a leader. That's why she was the organic choice for headmistress during New X-Men. I the character for me, again, just to reiterate that point, I think everyone should know this character and should study this character. And again, there was no handbook, especially at the time, for your daughter from an alternate reality coming to the present and you meeting her and you both are the same age. There was no, it is a trope now, it
right.
is overdone now, but in the 80s, that was not done. It was breaking new ground. And
It
again, I
was,
think
yeah.
just having that forgiveness. I did want to get into like the power level conversation with
Yes.
you though, because
Yes.
it's funny, I'm not a power level person per se. I'm all about what's fair is fair. Like, like
Right.
obviously Jean is more powerful than Emma, but Emma is more skilled at her powers than Jean, I would argue. That's as far as I go. So I'm curious about your thoughts on the Jean Solo series and the powers she exhibited.
Well, so here's my thing with this. Okay, I'm so glad you brought this up. Um, I can see what you mean when it regards because I think Emma, she is more willing to do certain things with her power than I think Jean is when it comes to that kind of moral compass area. And look, and I respect, like, I love Emma, I do, and I respect. Hey, look, it's Emma, so she'll do what she has to do. Um, but now, when it comes to the power, scaling, my worry, and this is why another thing that I worried about this series was I feel like, and this can kind of even go into Storm's series as well, is I worry about them creating these characters and making them uber powerful to the point where they can't be defeated, or they can't, or any opposition that comes their way they can easily take care of it, um, like that, in a snap. And that's why I just wasn't a fan of the point where Jean became this kind of like cosmic goddess, because yes, she's very strong, and I mean she's the Phoenix, and I'm glad that we've established that they are one and the same. They always have been. Um, but at the end of the day, she's still human, and in my opinion, she should not have to win every battle that she fights against. Let her lose. Let her let her let her get defeated by whoever. That's how you. That's part of a character's growth, their evolution. They don't always have to win. I mean, go back to shows like Xena and Buffy. I mean, did they always win everything that they fought against? No, they
No,
didn't.
you're right.
Yeah, they they
It,
they lost, and but they combat their way through it. And I mean, sometimes they have to be a little humbled at times, um, and that's why I worry about, because, and this is why I feel like writers sometimes they can back themselves into a bit of a corner where you don't want a character being so powerful that you don't know what to do with them. And of course, the always answer is, well, you just kill them off.
well, again, and I'm so glad you said that because the big thing with Jean and having the Phoenix power was like, how do we write a story? Basically, the way they're illustrating these characters now were the fears of writers like decades ago. Like, what do you do with the character that powerful? And I think instilling limits on characters
Yes.
is totally fine in a smart, intelligent way. It didn't bother me so much in the Phoenix, solo with Stephanie Phillips. It didn't really like I did think like her dying and then coming back instantaneously. I'm like, okay, like why didn't she do this in the 13 years that she was absent editorially? You know
Exactly.
what I mean? It brings in more questions than answers.
Yeah.
But I thought there was, it was from the ashes. Calvin said this about Jean's powers that at times, like the pink energy is her human power, trying to hold her
Hmm.
back from things. And then the Phoenix power is a little bit more unchecked and, you
All
know,
right.
that power. I don't know. I think Stephanie, again, to her credit, Stephanie Phillips was doing something with the powers. I think there was a commentary on the power sets that it evaded me, but obviously you were a little bit more attuned to it.
Well, I mean, going back to when Jean first became the Phoenix as Claremont's way to kind of evolve her character, um, because I mean, because there was a magazine that came out there. You see an unused sketch of Jean in an updated Marvel Girl costume, where she has a cape that was later incorporated into Storm. Um, that I guess was going to be her go-to look had they not done the whole Phoenix storyline. But she became the Phoenix. But even then, she had her limits. Because remember when they were, I think, in Antarctica and they were battling Magneto, she went up against him, but he still defeated her because she was hitting her limit with her power. Um, and so she was able to still be taken down. Still powerful. I mean, she got herself in beast out there and whatnot. She was still able to do the things about healing the M-Cron crystal and all that. But at the same time, I think there needs to be limitations to what people can do. And I think, and maybe this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, um, and that's fine. I think what should have happened at the very end of the series was, I get that with the whole Sarah issue and the gods not liking that she's choosing her sister over this cosmic balance higher whatever, and they end up just kind of letting her go and Sarah becoming Beacon or whatever the hell she's calling herself now. I think there still should have been some kind of like maybe comeuppance for Jean a little bit and have her stripped of that kind of power that she, I guess, imbued herself with to become this cosmic, queen or whatever, and then have her go back and into that green, updated Phoenix uniform that we saw her in the beginning of the series, and then have her be Jean as Phoenix, but still, Jean Grey is Jean Grey is Jean Grey. You know what I'm saying? That she still has, you know, she's still a human woman, and with this high omnipotent, power, but still take a hit here and there every now and then that she's not this uber being a godlike character. I think that would have been a bit of a solid, I guess, punishment, if you will. But because I'm going to be honest, I miss her being in that costume.
I listen, I'm on the same page with you where it's like she could be a drop of eternity in the form of a human, you know what I mean? I know I said eternity and I know
Hmm.
how contentious that is, but you know what I'm trying to say, a universal
Right.
force where it's like she can have her limitations as well because in this moment in her existence she is human, and that comes with some kind of, it doesn't mean that she's dead, it doesn't mean that she's not as powerful, but like she has a vulnerable human form. um I
Yeah.
don't know how I would have ended the series. I thought the way the series ended was terrible. When Jean's like, I'm happy, I'm like, I didn't think otherwise, but okay. um I was disappointed overall with the series, and but I'm listen, I think there's the general state of comics in general, though, I'm just not vibing with. I
I'm right there
miss
with you. Yeah.
I miss having that weekly comic. Like I don't know if we ever really. I must have told you this over the years that we've been friends. Where my Wednesday ritual was to go to Subway, get a foot-long sandwich and a Coke, and that was sort of like my 1 hour that I looked forward to every week. And no one can talk to me. My phone's on mute. I'm reading comic books and and I've been doing it since I was 18. I don't
Hmm.
do that anymore now. I don't even
Yeah.
know the last time I had a Subway sandwich. And it kind of hit me today with Matt Fraction's Batman. I can't believe we live in a world where I'm like, Matt Fraction's Batman is so good. I need to read the next issue. Um, but it's been a minute since I really just got some like a food and sat down to read comics. And now I'm just like, oh God, this is going to be disappointment and garbage. And oh.
I get it. I'm right there with you. Like I haven't really been as eager to go to the comic shop to get certain issues. Um, I mean, it's not just because of what I do, work wise and whatnot. I mean, I guess I have time now, but but it's just yeah, no, it's the state of storytelling anymore. It's just and maybe it's just because I'm a child. I mean, I'm a child of the '80s and the '90s here, and I read X-Men in the '90s, through the animated series, and so I really love those storylines. And then I loved going back and picking up stories from the '80s and the '70s and just seeing where it all started from. But it just seems that now you always have some kind of event happening every year. There's just never been, you know, just a storyline that happens that where there's nothing where you just have like a villain of the month or whatever, or maybe like a easy two-parter, and then they went on to the next. And I guess, and what I miss too about comics is I loved having issues here and there where it was just the characters just kind of coming back together and just kind of decompressing, like the issue things like X-Men 308, where it was a Thanksgiving issue. It's
Oh,
where
yeah.
Jean proposes to Scott, and they're reminiscing about their lives, and you see the X-Men playing football, they're raking leaves, and then at the end they're all together for Thanksgiving, and that's when Jean and Scott announce that they're engaged, they're going to get married. It's just having issues like that where it's just nice to see them just actually be human, everyday people doing everyday things and just having kind of talks. And you just don't really get that, anymore. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old fogey now.
I have said this. I have literally become the old man shaking his fist at the sky. But I now understand how the old man became the old man shaking his fist at the sky. And that's there's glimmers of hopes here and there. And
Sure.
obviously we're both very active in these fandom channels, and let's see where things go. But I
Yeah.
missed you, man. I forgot how, I mean, I've always known, but I forgot how like we're just on the same page with everything without a beat.
Oh no, it's no, I love it. I'm just always so excited to be able to come on here. Think, gosh, what was the last time we did? We were talking about X-Men '97
Yeah.
and the finale of that series. I'm not to keep on here, but how are you feeling about the next season?
I mean, it's a little bit of a cheat because I know inside information on that. So I wish maybe they would have kept some things that they originally were conceived, like Onslaught. I think Neve Campbell as Polaris would have been perfect. So, I'm sad those things aren't happening, but I think, the first couple episodes hopefully will be good. I don't think they changed that much in an approach. I'm more worried
Onslaught would have
about
been
season
awesome.
three. Yeah, I'm more worried about
Oh,
season three. That's where, and I think Bo has said this on Twitter, so I'm not saying anything, but I think season two, the majority of the vision that was planned is going to be kept, but season three, I think,
right. That's going to
let's
be
see where it
kind of like,
goes.
yeah, yeah.
We'll see where it
No,
goes. I
no.
don't have I don't know how you feel about What If. I didn't think What If was particularly good. Um, so it makes me kind of, sad. I mean, I don't want to say it was like bad. Like, by the way, I thought Marvel's Zombies was great. Like, that was
Oh
wonderful.
yeah,
Like,
I
it was
love that.
really well done. But
Yeah,
what
yeah.
if I was kind of like, even I was hyped going into the third season because Storm was going to be in there, but there was no real reason for Storm being there. I wish they would have explained something. Like, I thought it was going to be the X-Men animated series Storm, who never
Right.
got her powers back and became,
Mm.
the Asgardian goddess that she is in the series, but they don't give
That
any
would
explanation. So
that would have been good. That
I
would,
know
I don't
I'm
know.
available. We're
I'm
available. Like we will wrap these things out. Like just give us your script and we will polish them for you.
I yeah. What if I was? That was a bit of hit or miss. I never. I think I only saw one episode of the last season, and that was the one with Kingo and Agatha Harkness because I love. I'm a Kumail Nanjiani fan, so I love Kingo, and so I want to see more of him. But other than that, that was it. So
Askani, where can folks find you? And when are we getting the next episode in your podcast?
well, so for those that want to send me the nasty DMs about, who the Prime Green Lantern is, and not don't send it to Dayspring here. You can hit me on Instagram at mdbrower81. So I'm on that. You can also find my Talk and Vibe podcast. Give me a moment here. Yep, Talk and Vibe on Instagram. That's me and my co-host Booker. We've been doing that for a couple of years now. And Twitter X, I mean, I think I'm at Mike Brower 81, so I post mostly just my artwork and that's it. So
All right. Well, Familia, you can hit us up at Power of X-Men, and we'll be at New York Comic Con, and we're doing a book reading with Lenore Zan on that Sunday. All the information is posted on Power of X-Men, and we will see you later.
see ya.